never expected to find my wife's betrayal in the bright light of day. There I stood, frozen, in our living room, watching my 45-year-old wife, Susan, passionately kissing a 20-year-old bodybuilder named Jake. It was a Thursday afternoon, and I had come home early from work, hoping to surprise Susan with tickets to a concert she had mentioned wanting to attend. The front door creaked open, and I heard faint giggles coming from the direction of our usually serene living room. Confusion mingled with a growing sense of unease as I followed the sounds, hoping to catch Susan alone and share my surprise. What I found shattered my world into a million jagged pieces. Susan, her hair tousled and cheeks flushed with excitement, was locked in an embrace with Jake, whose muscles rippled beneath his tight tank top. Their lips met hungrily, oblivious to everything but each other. I stood there, rooted to the spot, disbelief washing over me in waves. Time seemed to stretch into infinity as I struggled to comprehend the scene before me. Susan, my wife of 25 years, whom I had loved and trusted without question, was betraying me with a man half her age. Jake finally pulled away, a cocky smirk spreading across his face as he glanced in my direction. Susan turned, her eyes widening in shock and guilt as she saw me standing there, a silent witness to her infidelity. "Mark, I can explain," Susan stammered, her voice trembling with fear and regret. But her words fell flat, drowning in the deafening silence that enveloped us. My mind raced, trying to process the devastating scene before me. Anger, hurt, and betrayal battled for dominance within me, threatening to consume everything I had ever known. Without a word, I turned and walked out of the room, leaving Susan and Jake standing there, their guilt hanging heavy in the air. The slam of the front door echoed through the house, a punctuation mark on the end of our shattered marriage. Outside, I leaned against the cold brick wall, struggling to steady my breathing. How could Susan do this to us? To me? Questions without answers swirled in my mind, each one more painful than the last. That moment, standing alone in the fading light of day, marked the beginning of my descent into darkness, and the birth of a burning desire for revenge that would consume my every waking thought in the days and weeks to come. I staggered back from the scene in our living room, my mind struggling to process the betrayal unfolding before me. The images of Susan and Jake entwined, their passion palpable, burned into my memory like a searing brand. Denial surged through me, a desperate attempt to shield myself from the truth. This couldn't be happening. Not Susan, not after all we had shared, all we had built together. But the evidence was irrefutable, etched into my mind and heart. I retreated to our bedroom, seeking refuge in the familiar surroundings that now felt foreign and tainted. The scent of Susan's perfume lingered in the air, a cruel reminder of the woman who had vowed to love and honor me. Fingers trembling, I reached for our wedding photo on the nightstand. In happier times, Susan's smile had radiated genuine joy, her eyes sparkling with love for me. Now those eyes seemed to mock me with their betrayal, casting a shadow over our once happy memories. As the shock began to ebb, a torrent of emotions threatened to engulf me. Anger burned hot and raw, fueled by the injustice of Susan's infidelity. How could she throw away everything we had built together for a fleeting moment of passion? Grief followed close behind, a heavy weight settling over my chest. The pain of betrayal cut deep, slicing through the fabric of our marriage and leaving behind jagged edges of shattered trust. Hours passed in a blur as I wrestled with my emotions, pacing the length of our bedroom like a caged animal. Each step echoed the turmoil raging within me, a storm of hurt and confusion that threatened to consume me whole. Outside, the sky darkened, mirroring the darkness that had descended upon my soul. Susan's betrayal had shattered my world, leaving me adrift in a sea of unanswered questions and unspoken truths. Eventually, exhaustion claimed me, dragging me into an uneasy sleep plagued by dreams of Susan and Jake, their laughter ringing hollow in the recesses of my mind. When morning finally broke, I awoke to a harsh reality. The initial shock had given way to a cold, numbing resolve. I couldn't undo Susan's betrayal, but I could control how I responded to it. With a heavy heart and a steely determination, I knew one thing for certain. Susan's betrayal would not go unanswered. The path to revenge lay before me, a twisted road paved with broken promises and shattered dreams. And I would walk it, no matter the cost. The days following the discovery of Susan's betrayal passed in a blur of numbness and disbelief. Each moment was punctuated by the searing pain of betrayal, a constant reminder of the shattered trust that had once bound us together. Despite the turmoil raging within me, I knew I couldn't avoid the inevitable confrontation with Susan. I needed answers, closure, something to make sense of the senseless. So one evening, steeling myself against the storm of emotions brewing inside, I confronted her. Susan returned home late from work, her steps faltering as she entered our once happy home, now a battleground of unspoken accusations and broken vows. Her eyes widened in fear and guilt as she saw the determination etched on my face. "Mark, please," Susan whispered, her voice trembling with regret. "Let's talk about this." My heart clenched at the sound of her voice, the familiar warmth now tainted by the betrayal that had torn us apart. Despite the torrent of emotions threatening to overwhelm me, I forced myself to remain calm, to confront Susan with the truth she could no longer deny. Without preamble, I confronted her with what I had seen that fateful afternoon. The image of her and Jake, locked in an embrace meant only for us, hung heavy between us like a veil of shame. Tears streamed down Susan's face as she tried to explain, her words stumbling over the weight of her guilt. She spoke of loneliness, of feeling neglected and unappreciated in our marriage. She spoke of Jake, his youth and vitality igniting a spark within her that had long lain dormant. But her words fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the overwhelming pain of her betrayal. I wanted to scream, to lash out at the woman who had shattered my world with her infidelity. Yet beneath the anger and hurt, a part of me still clung to the love we had once shared, desperate for a glimmer of hope amidst the ruins. "Why, Susan?" I finally managed to choke out, my voice thick with emotion. "After everything we've been through, how could you do this to us?" Susan's shoulders sagged, her gaze dropping to the floor in shame. "I don't know," she whispered hoarsely. "I'm so sorry, Mark. I never meant to hurt you." Her words were a dagger to my heart, piercing the last vestiges of hope that had clung stubbornly to the wreckage of our marriage. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken regrets and shattered dreams. Eventually, I turned away, unable to bear the sight of the woman who had once been my everything. "I need time," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper, "to figure things out." Susan nodded silently, her tears a silent testament to the pain we both shared. With a heavy heart, I left her standing there, alone in the wreckage of our shattered marriage. As I walked away, the weight of Susan's betrayal settled around me like a cloak of darkness. But amidst the pain and heartache, a flicker of determination burned within me. Susan's betrayal would not go unanswered. I would make sure of it. In the days that followed our confrontation, the silence between Susan and me was suffocating. Each passing moment was filled with unspoken accusations and bitter resentment, our once shared home now a battleground of shattered dreams. I retreated into myself, wrestling with the whirlwind of emotions that threatened to consume me. Anger burned hot and fierce, fueled by the injustice of Susan's betrayal. How could she blame our marriage, our life together, for her infidelity? Late one evening, unable to sleep amidst the turmoil raging within me, I found myself staring at the wedding photo on our bedside table. Susan's smile, once a beacon of love and happiness, now felt like a cruel mockery of everything we had lost. The next morning, over a tense breakfast that neither of us had an appetite for, Susan broached the subject of our fractured marriage. Her eyes were red-rimmed with tears, her voice hesitant as she spoke. "Mark, I know I've hurt you," Susan began, her words a fragile attempt at reconciliation. But our marriage, it had grown stale, predictable. We were drifting apart. Her words cut deep, a painful reminder of the complacency that had settled into our relationship over the years. I wanted to scream at her, to lash out with the pent-up rage that simmered just beneath the surface. But instead, I forced myself to listen, to hear the reasons behind her betrayal. Susan spoke of loneliness, of feeling neglected and unappreciated in our marriage. She spoke of the long hours I spent at work, the routines that had dulled the passion we had once shared. And she spoke of Jake, his youthful exuberance and attention reigniting a spark within her that had long lain dormant. I listened in silence, my heart heavy with the weight of her words. It was easier to blame our marriage, our life together, than to confront the painful truth of her betrayal. But deep down I knew that Susan's affair was not a reflection of our marriage, but of her own choices and actions. "Why didn't you talk to me, Susan?" I finally managed to choke out, my voice thick with emotion. "We could have worked through this together." Susan's shoulders slumped, her gaze dropping to her lap in shame. "I didn't know how to," she admitted quietly. I felt trapped, suffocated by the routine of our lives. Jake made me feel alive again, even if it was just for a moment. Her words were a bitter pill to swallow, a painful acknowledgement of the distance that had grown between us. But beneath the hurt and betrayal, a part of me still clung to the love we had once shared, desperate for a glimmer of hope amidst the ruins. "I can't forgive you, Susan," I murmured, my voice raw with pain. "Not yet." Her tears fell silently, a silent testament to the pain we both shared. In that moment I knew that our marriage had irrevocably changed, the trust between us shattered beyond repair. As I retreated to the sanctuary of my thoughts, a flicker of determination burned within me. Susan's betrayal would not go unanswered. I would make sure of it, no matter the cost. In the wake of Susan's confession and our strained attempt at reconciliation, a cold, calculating resolve settled over me. The initial shock and raw pain of her betrayal had given way to a steely determination. I couldn't undo the past, but I could control how I responded to it. I retreated into a world of meticulous planning, each step calculated to exact maximum retribution for the pain Susan had inflicted upon me. Revenge simmered beneath the surface, a fire fueled by the betrayal that had shattered our once happy home. First, I sought legal counsel from a top divorce attorney. Sitting in the stark, impersonal office, I laid bare every detail of Susan's affair. The attorney listened attentively, his expression neutral as he absorbed the depths of Susan's betrayal. Together, we mapped out a strategy designed to ensure I would come out on top in the impending divorce proceedings. Susan's infidelity would not only be exposed but used against her to secure favorable terms in the division of our assets and custody arrangements. Financially, I took preemptive measures to safeguard our joint assets. Quietly and discreetly, I transferred half of our savings into a separate account under my sole control. It was a strategic move to prevent Susan from draining our finances once the divorce proceedings commenced. With the help of a seasoned private investigator, I gathered irrefutable evidence of Susan's affair. Photos, videos, and detailed documentation painted a damning portrait of her infidelity, leaving no room for denial or excuses. Emotionally, I began to dismantle the support system Susan had once relied upon. Subtly, I shared the evidence of her affair with trusted friends and family, casting doubt upon her integrity and sowing seeds of discord in her social circle. Professionally, I took calculated steps to undermine Susan's reputation. I discreetly leaked information about her affair to her colleagues and superiors, tarnishing her professional standing and casting a shadow over her career. Psychologically, I waged a silent war of attrition. Subtle reminders of her betrayal littered our once happy home. A photograph of us on a vacation she had ruined, old love letters she had written, now mocking reminders of the vows she had broken. Publicly, I orchestrated a carefully timed confrontation at a neighborhood gathering. With calculated precision, I exposed Susan's affair in front of our friends and neighbors, laying bare the betrayal that had torn our family apart. The look of horror and shame on her face was a small victory for my wounded pride. The days blurred into weeks as I methodically executed each phase of my plan. The divorce papers were drafted and served upon Susan with cold efficiency, a stark reminder of the love and trust she had discarded so callously. Through it all, a mix of emotions churned within me, anger, hurt, and a bitter sense of betrayal. But beneath the pain, a flicker of satisfaction burned within me. Susan's betrayal had awakened a primal need for justice, for retribution, and I would see it through to the bitter end, no matter the cost. The decision to seek legal counsel marked a turning point in my quest for justice. Sitting across from the seasoned divorce attorney, I laid bare the painful details of Susan's affair, each word a dagger of betrayal piercing the fragile remnants of our shattered marriage. The attorney, a stoic figure with years of experience etched into the lines of his face, listened intently as I recounted the scene I had stumbled upon in our living room. His expression remained neutral, betraying nothing of the emotions that roiled within me. "Mark, I understand this must be incredibly difficult for you," he began, his voice calm and measured. "But in order to proceed effectively, we need to focus on the facts." I nodded silently, grateful for the attorney's professionalism, amidst the storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Together we delved into the specifics of Susan's affair, mapping out a strategy designed to ensure I would emerge from the divorce proceedings with my dignity intact. The attorney outlined the legal implications of Susan's infidelity, explaining how her actions could be used to my advantage in securing favorable terms in the division of our assets and custody arrangements. His words were a lifeline, offering a sense of clarity and purpose in the midst of chaos. "We'll need to gather concrete evidence of Susan's affair," the attorney advised, his voice tinged with a hint of urgency. "Photographs, witness statements, anything that can corroborate your claims." I nodded again, the weight of his words sinking in. The attorney's guidance was a roadmap through the labyrinth of divorce proceedings, each step calculated to maximize my leverage and minimize Susan's ability to manipulate the outcome. Financially, we discussed the importance of safeguarding our joint assets. With the attorney's guidance, I took preemptive measures to protect our savings, transferring half into a separate account under my sole control. It was a strategic move to prevent Susan from draining our finances once the divorce proceedings began in earnest. Emotionally, the attorney emphasized the importance of maintaining composure and restraint. "Focus on the facts," he reminded me, his tone unwavering. "Let the evidence speak for itself." As our meeting drew to a close, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the turmoil. The attorney's expertise had provided a sense of empowerment, a belief that justice could be served in the wake of Susan's betrayal. Armed with a plan and a renewed sense of determination, I left the attorney's office with a singular purpose: to see Susan's infidelity exposed and justice served. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I was prepared to face them head-on, no matter the cost. The decision to safeguard our joint assets marked a critical juncture in my strategic retaliation against Susan's betrayal. With the guidance of my attorney, I took swift and calculated steps to protect our financial interests before Susan could exploit them. In the days following our initial consultation, I meticulously reviewed our financial records, taking stock of our savings, investments, and joint accounts. The weight of betrayal hung heavy in the air, driving me to act swiftly and decisively. Under the guise of prudent financial planning, I initiated a series of discrete transactions. Half of our joint savings were quietly transferred into a separate account under my sole control. It was a preemptive strike designed to prevent Susan from draining our finances once the divorce proceedings commenced. Each transfer was executed with careful precision, leaving no trace of my actions. The bank statements reflected a seamless transition, masking the underlying turmoil that had fractured our once happy home. Financial security had been a cornerstone of our marriage, a shared responsibility that had bound us together through life's ups and downs. Now it served as both a weapon and a shield in my battle against Susan's betrayal. With the attorney's counsel ringing in my ears, I fortified our financial defenses, ensuring that Susan would not wield our joint assets against me in the upcoming divorce negotiations. It was a strategic move, calculated to tip the scales of justice in my favor. Yet, amidst the tactical maneuvers and calculated risks, a lingering sense of unease gnawed at my conscience. Had I become the very thing I despised? The thought of manipulating our shared resources for personal gain left a bitter taste in my mouth, a stark reminder of the moral complexities inherent in seeking revenge. But with each passing day, the resolve to protect myself and secure a fair outcome strengthened my determination. Susan's betrayal had awakened a primal instinct for self-preservation, a drive to safeguard what little remained of our shattered marriage. As the divorce proceedings loomed on the horizon, I found solace in the knowledge that our financial security was secured. It was a small victory amidst the wreckage of our once happy life together, a testament to my determination to emerge from this ordeal with my dignity intact. Armed with a renewed sense of purpose and fortified by the financial safeguards in place, I turned my focus to gathering irrefutable evidence of Susan's affair. Every piece of evidence would serve as a pillar of strength in the impending legal battle, a testament to the truth I was determined to expose. With the guidance of my attorney and the assistance of a seasoned private investigator, I embarked on a meticulous quest for proof. It was a delicate balance of stealth and precision, each step taken with careful consideration of the legal implications and personal consequences. The private investigator, a shadowy figure with a reputation for discretion and efficiency, became my ally in the pursuit of justice. Together we combed through Susan's digital footprint, scouring emails, text messages, and social media interactions for any hint of her betrayal. Late nights were spent poring over phone records and GPS logs, tracing Susan's movements with meticulous detail. Each breadcrumb of evidence uncovered painted a damning portrait of her infidelity, leaving no room for doubt or denial. Photographs were snapped discreetly, capturing moments of intimacy between Susan and Jake. Videos recorded hushed conversations and stolen glances, revealing the depth of their deception with chilling clarity. Witness statements were gathered discreetly, corroborating the evidence of Susan's affair and providing additional layers of credibility to our case. Friends who had once been Susan's confidants now stepped forward, their loyalty tested by the stark reality of her betrayal. Each piece of evidence was cataloged and filed away, a digital arsenal poised to dismantle Susan's defenses in the courtroom. The weight of proof bolstered my resolve, reinforcing the righteousness of my quest for justice. Yet, amidst the calculated pursuit of evidence, a nagging sense of unease lingered in the shadows. Had I become consumed by vengeance, blinded to the human cost of my actions? The thought of exposing Susan's affair to the world weighed heavily on my conscience, a stark reminder of the collateral damage wrought by betrayal. But with each new piece of evidence unearthed, the cold fury of betrayal fueled my determination. Susan's actions had shattered our trust and irreparably damaged our marriage. The pursuit of justice was not only my right but a moral imperative in the face of such deception. As the divorce proceedings drew nearer, I prepared to unveil the truth with unwavering resolve. Susan's betrayal would not go unanswered. The evidence gathered would serve as a beacon of truth in the storm of lies and deceit, a testament to the strength of my resolve to reclaim my dignity and honor. With a dossier of damning evidence meticulously gathered, I turned my attention to the delicate task of turning our shared friends and family against Susan. It was a strategic move, designed to erode her support system and weaken her defenses in the impending divorce battle. Armed with the truth of Susan's betrayal, I approached our closest friends with caution and determination. Each conversation was carefully crafted, the evidence presented with a measured balance of discretion and persuasion. Some friends reacted with shock and disbelief, their loyalty to Susan tested by the stark reality of her infidelity. They struggled to reconcile the image of the woman they had known with the evidence I presented, their faith in Susan shaken to its core. Others were more receptive, their own suspicions confirmed by the undeniable proof of Susan's affair. They offered their support without hesitation, pledging allegiance to my cause in the quest for justice. Family gatherings became battlegrounds of whispered conversations and sidelong glances. The once united front of our extended family now fractured by the revelation of Susan's betrayal. Loyalties shifted and alliances formed, each member forced to confront the painful truth of her deception. Susan, once the center of our social circle, found herself isolated and vulnerable amidst the growing tide of doubt and suspicion. Her attempts to defend herself fell on deaf ears, the weight of evidence too overwhelming to deny. Yet amidst the calculated manipulation of friendships and loyalties, a lingering sense of guilt gnawed at my conscience. Had I crossed a moral line in my quest for revenge? The thought of manipulating our shared relationships for personal gain left a bitter taste in my mouth, a stark reminder of the collateral damage wrought by betrayal. But with each friend and family member swayed to my side, the resolve to see justice served only strengthened. Susan's betrayal had left a trail of broken trust and shattered hearts in its wake. The support of those who once stood by her side now bolstered my determination to expose the truth and reclaim my dignity. As the divorce proceedings loomed on the horizon, I found solace in the knowledge that Susan's support network was crumbling around her. The battle lines had been drawn, and I was prepared to fight for my truth with unwavering resolve. With Susan's social support eroding and a solid foundation of evidence in hand, I turned my focus to undermining her professional reputation. It was a strategic move aimed at further weakening her defenses and securing a favorable outcome in the impending divorce proceedings. Armed with insider knowledge of Susan's workplace dynamics and the support of influential contacts, I orchestrated a series of calculated maneuvers to tarnish her professional standing. First, discreet whispers of Susan's affair circulated among her colleagues and superiors. I strategically leaked information about her indiscretions, painting a damning portrait of deceit and betrayal that threatened to overshadow her professional accomplishments. Rumors took root, spreading like wildfire through the corridors of her workplace. Susan's once impeccable reputation as a dedicated and trustworthy employee began to unravel, tarnished by the shadows of her personal indiscretions. Anonymous emails and subtle innuendos further fueled the whispers of scandal, casting a pall of doubt over Susan's competence and integrity. Colleagues who had once relied on her expertise now viewed her with suspicion, questioning her motives and judgment in light of the revelations. The professional sabotage was a calculated gamble, designed to destabilize Susan's career and undermine her ability to mount a credible defense in the divorce proceedings. It was a harsh reality of the battlefield I had chosen, where alliances were forged and broken with ruthless efficiency. Yet, amidst the calculated manipulation of Susan's professional reputation, a nagging sense of guilt tugged at my conscience. Had I gone too far in my quest for revenge? The thought of manipulating her career for personal gain left a bitter taste in my mouth, a stark reminder of the ethical boundaries I had crossed. But with each new setback Susan faced in her professional life, the resolve to see justice served only strengthened. Her betrayal had left a trail of devastation in its wake, both personally and professionally. The dismantling of her professional reputation was not only a means to an end, but a testament to the consequences of her actions. As the divorce proceedings loomed closer, I found solace in the knowledge that Susan's professional standing was crumbling under the weight of her own choices. The battle lines had been drawn, and I was prepared to fight for my truth with unwavering resolve. With Susan's social and professional spheres infiltrated and her defenses weakened, I turned to psychological warfare as the next phase of my calculated revenge. It was a strategic maneuver aimed at exploiting her vulnerabilities and ensuring she felt the full weight of her betrayal. The battleground shifted from the external to the internal, where subtle manipulations and carefully orchestrated maneuvers would chip away at Susan's emotional stability and resolve. First, I employed subtle tactics to sow seeds of doubt and insecurity in Susan's mind. Innocuous comments and veiled criticisms aimed at her appearance, her choices, and her behavior subtly undermined her confidence, feeding into the self-doubt that had taken root since the revelation of her affair. Gaslighting became a weapon of choice, as I strategically distorted reality and manipulated Susan's perception of events. I subtly questioned her memory and judgment, planting seeds of uncertainty that eroded her trust in herself and others. Emotional manipulation took center stage, as I alternated between moments of affection and cold detachment. The unpredictability of my behavior left Susan on edge, unsure of where she stood in my eyes and struggling to reconcile the conflicting emotions within her own heart. Passive-aggressive tactics crept into our interactions, as I withheld affection and attention in calculated increments. Each withdrawal was a calculated reminder of the emotional distance that had grown between us, a consequence of her betrayal and my wounded pride. Meanwhile, I cultivated an air of indifference in public settings, where Susan's presence was met with cold civility rather than the warmth of companionship we had once shared. The isolation she felt among mutual friends and acquaintances served as a stark reminder of the consequences of her actions. Therapy sessions, ostensibly aimed at reconciliation, became a platform for subtle manipulation and emotional probing. Under the guise of seeking closure, I probed Susan's vulnerabilities and exploited her insecurities, extracting confessions and admissions that further cemented her guilt in the eyes of our therapist. Yet, amidst the calculated maneuvers in psychological warfare, a sense of unease gnawed at my conscience. Had I become the very thing I despised? The thought of manipulating Susan's emotions for personal gain left a bitter taste in my mouth, a stark reminder of the moral complexities inherent in seeking revenge. But with each psychological blow delivered, the flicker of satisfaction burned within me. Susan's betrayal had awakened a primal need for justice, for retribution. The emotional toll exacted was a small measure of the pain she had inflicted upon me, a testament to the consequences of her actions. As the divorce proceedings loomed on the horizon, I prepared to unleash the full force of psychological warfare. Susan's emotional stability teetered on the brink, her resolve weakened by the relentless onslaught of doubt and insecurity. As the divorce proceedings drew nearer, I shifted my focus to the final phase of my calculated revenge against Susan. Social humiliation. It was a strategic maneuver aimed at exposing her betrayal to the wider community, ensuring that the consequences of her actions reverberated beyond our immediate circle. Armed with a carefully curated narrative and a network of influential contacts, I orchestrated a series of calculated moves designed to publicly shame Susan and tarnish her reputation. First, I strategically leaked details of Susan's affair to select members of our social circle. Casual conversations and discreet gatherings became platforms for subtle insinuations and veiled references, casting doubt upon Susan's integrity and moral character. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by whispers of infidelity and betrayal. Susan's once impeccable reputation as a devoted wife and pillar of the community began to crumble, tarnished by the shadows of her personal indiscretions. Anonymous tips and strategically placed gossip further fueled the flames of scandal, painting a damning portrait of deceit and moral bankruptcy. The court of public opinion became a battleground of whispered accusations and sidelong glances, where Susan found herself cast as the villain in her own narrative. Social gatherings, once a source of joy and camaraderie, became arenas of whispered conversations and pointed glances. The once united front of our social circle now fractured by the revelation of Susan's betrayal. Loyalties shifted and alliances formed, each member forced to confront the painful truth of her deception. Public confrontations, carefully orchestrated for maximum impact, became a tool of retribution. With calculated precision, I exposed Susan's affair in front of mutual friends and acquaintances, laying bare the betrayal that had torn our family apart. The look of shock and shame on her face was a small victory for my wounded pride. Yet, amidst the calculated manipulation of social dynamics, a sense of unease lingered in the shadows. Had I crossed a moral line in my quest for revenge? The thought of exploiting our shared relationships for personal gain left a bitter taste in my mouth, a stark reminder of the collateral damage wrought by betrayal. But with each new setback Susan faced in her social life, the resolve to see justice served only strengthened. Her betrayal had left a trail of broken trust and shattered hearts in its wake. The public humiliation she faced was not only a means to an end, but a testament to the consequences of her actions. As the divorce proceedings loomed closer, I found solace in the knowledge that Susan's social standing was crumbling under the weight of her own choices. The battle lines had been drawn, and I was prepared to fight for my truth with unwavering resolve. The culmination of months of meticulous planning and calculated retaliation against Susan's betrayal arrived with the arrival of the divorce papers. Each page bore the weight of our shattered dreams and the stark reality of our irreconcilable differences. With the guidance of my attorney, I had meticulously crafted the divorce petition to reflect the depth of Susan's betrayal and my unwavering determination to seek justice. The legal document detailed the grounds for divorce, citing Susan's infidelity as a breach of trust and a fundamental breakdown of our marriage. As I reviewed the final draft, a mix of emotions churned within me: anger, hurt, and a bitter sense of betrayal. Yet beneath the turmoil, a flicker of satisfaction burned within me. The divorce papers were not just a legal formality, but a declaration of my resolve to reclaim my dignity and honor. Susan's reaction to the divorce papers was a mix of shock and indignation. The reality of our impending divorce cast a harsh spotlight on the consequences of her actions, forcing her to confront the fallout of her betrayal. Her attempts at reconciliation fell on deaf ears, the trust between us irreparably shattered by her infidelity. The divorce proceedings became a battleground of legal maneuvers and emotional reckonings, each side fighting for their version of truth and justice. Financial negotiations became fraught with tension as we navigated the division of our assets and liabilities. My attorney's strategic guidance ensured that Susan's infidelity would not only be exposed, but used against her to secure favorable terms in the settlement. Custody arrangements for our children became a point of contention, each side vying for a stake in their future. The welfare of our children weighed heavily on my mind, a stark reminder of the collateral damage wrought by Susan's betrayal. Throughout it all, I clung to the evidence of Susan's affair like a lifeline. The photographs, witness statements, and digital trail served as irrefutable proof of her infidelity, reinforcing my resolve to see justice served in the eyes of the law. Yet, amidst the legal battles and emotional turmoil, a sense of emptiness gnawed at my soul. The life we had built together lay in ruins, a casualty of Susan's betrayal and my relentless pursuit of revenge. Had my quest for justice come at too high a cost? But with each step closer to finalizing the divorce, the flicker of satisfaction burned brighter within me. Susan's betrayal had awakened a primal need for justice, for retribution. The divorce papers were not just a legal document, but a testament to my resilience in the face of heartbreak and betrayal. As the divorce proceedings neared their conclusion, I braced myself for the final reckoning. The road ahead was fraught with uncertainty and emotional turmoil, but I was prepared to face it with the same unwavering determination that had guided me thus far. The custody battle loomed as the next daunting chapter in the aftermath of Susan's betrayal and our impending divorce. It was a heart-wrenching contest that tested the limits of our resolve and threatened to further fracture our already shattered family. As the legal proceedings intensified, each side sought to stake their claim to our children's future. Custody arrangements became a battleground of competing interests and emotional reckonings, where the welfare of our children hung precariously in the balance. With the guidance of my attorney, I prepared meticulously for the custody battle ahead. Every detail of our children's lives was scrutinized, from their daily routines to their academic achievements and emotional well-being. It was a testament to my commitment as a father and my determination to protect our children from the fallout of Susan's betrayal. Evidence of Susan's infidelity became a pivotal point of contention in the custody negotiations. My attorney strategically leveraged the proof gathered, photographs, witness statements, and digital evidence, to cast doubt upon Susan's fitness as a mother and undermine her credibility in the eyes of the court. Yet, amidst the legal maneuvering and emotional turmoil, a sense of anguish gnawed at my conscience. The custody battle had become a battlefield where our children's innocence was unwittingly caught in the crossfire of our personal vendettas. Had my quest for justice come at too high a cost for their well-being? But with each hearing and negotiation session, the flicker of determination burned brighter within me. Susan's betrayal had shattered our family, but I remained steadfast in my commitment to provide a stable and nurturing environment for our children. Visitation schedules and parenting plans were debated with meticulous attention to detail, each decision shaping the future of our children's lives. The court's decision weighed heavily on my mind, a solemn reminder of the stakes at hand and profound impact of Susan's actions on our family. As the custody battle reached its zenith, emotions ran high and tensions escalated. Each side fought fiercely for their parental rights, fueled by love, fear, and a deep-seated desire to protect our children from the fallout of our fractured marriage. Yet amidst the legal battles and emotional turmoil, a glimmer of hope emerged. Through mediation and compromise, a semblance of agreement began to take shape, a fragile truce forged in the crucible of heartbreak and betrayal. The road ahead remained fraught with uncertainty and challenges, but I was determined to navigate it with unwavering resolve. The custody battle was not just a legal contest, but a testament to my unwavering commitment to shield our children from the consequences of Susan's betrayal and provide them with a future filled with love, stability, and hope. The final showdown arrived with a solemnity that echoed the gravity of all that had transpired. After months of legal battles, emotional turmoil, and relentless pursuit of justice, the moment of reckoning had come. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Susan and I stood before the judge, our respective legal teams flanking us like silent sentinels. The air was heavy with tension, each side poised for the decisive moment that would determine the fate of our fractured family. The proceedings began with a recitation of grievances and legal arguments, each point meticulously debated and dissected. My attorney presented a compelling case, leveraging the evidence of Susan's infidelity to underscore her breach of trust and moral culpability. Susan's defense was equally fervent, her attorney weaving a narrative of remorse and regret. She pleaded for leniency and understanding, painting herself as a victim of her own misguided choices and pleading for a chance at redemption. Witnesses took the stand, their testimonies offering conflicting accounts of our marriage and Susan's character. Friends and family members were called to testify, their loyalty tested by the stark reality of Susan's betrayal and the consequences it had wrought. Throughout it all, our children remained at the heart of the proceedings. Their well-being hung in the balance, a poignant reminder of the stakes at hand and the profound impact of our actions on their lives. As the final arguments were delivered and the judge deliberated, a sense of weary resignation settled over me. The battle had exacted a toll on both sides, leaving wounds that would not easily heal. Yet, amidst the pain and heartache, a glimmer of hope emerged, a belief that justice would prevail and our family would find a path forward, however fractured it may be. Finally, the judge rendered a verdict, a solemn pronouncement that brought an end to our tumultuous journey. Custody arrangements were finalized, financial settlements negotiated, and the dissolution of our marriage formalized. Susan and I stood apart, our eyes meeting briefly in a moment of shared sadness and regret. The gavel fell with a resounding finality, sealing our fate and marking the end of a chapter in our lives that had been defined by betrayal and revenge. As I walked out of the courtroom, a weight lifted from my shoulders, a burden of anger and resentment that had consumed me in the aftermath of Susan's betrayal. In its place, a sense of closure and a tentative hope for the future took root. The road ahead remained uncertain, marked by the scars of our shattered marriage and the lessons learned in the crucible of heartbreak and betrayal. But I was no longer defined by revenge or consumed by bitterness. I was a survivor, determined to rebuild my life and forge a new path forward. The final showdown had come to an end, but the journey toward healing and redemption had only just begun.